guys, welcome back to Eggs the Podcast. But before we get started, I want to talk to you about our sponsor, Taylor Style. So, spring has sprung across the country, and as you know, one thing that's funny about spring is when you wake up, it's freezing, by lunch it's 65, and by evening, it's dumping rain. It's like you need different outfits day to day just to keep up. Long sleeves when you need them, short sleeves when you don't. Time to put away that winter wardrobe? Maybe not. I'm finding that's a real perk of subscribing to Taylor Style. It's a clothing rental and styling service, real human stylists backed up with the power of AI, that sends you pieces that actually make sense for your life. So instead of guessing, you've got layers when it's cold, less when it's not, and outfits that you'll love that actually work together. And the best part, you don't have to shop, you don't have to think about it, and you definitely don't have to do laundry. I'm a subscriber right now, and every few weeks I get a box with hand-picked outfits chosen by a real stylist, refined by their AI, and the crazy part is they actually nail it most of the time. Stuff I would never go buy, but I end up wearing nonstop just because it works. Spring's unpredictable, but your wardrobe doesn't have to be. If you want to check it out, go to tailor.style, that's taelor.style, and use the code EGGS to get 25% off your first month. It's a simple way to look sharp, save time, and make sure that you're showing up ready for whatever the week has to throw at you. That's Taylor, taelor.style. Use promo code EGGS and take 25% off your first month. It's honestly just a smarter way to get dressed. And now, back to the show. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Eggs, the Podcast. Today's special guest is Torkil Færø, or Dr. Torkil Færø, sorry, the author of The Pulse Cure, and one of these guys that's going to help us all get healthy and better in 2025.
I could use it.
Torkil, welcome to the show. How are you, man?
Thank you. I'm fine. Perfect. Yeah, we all could use it. You know, we all need to stay in shape and get our health balanced. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. So let's just kind of start at the beginning. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say, when you came in as a guest suggestion and I saw the topic, I'm like, both Ryan and I need to talk to this guy. So let's set it up and make it happen. Let's get a little bit of your backstory. Where are you from? How long you've been doing this? Why'd you write the book?
Yeah, I'm a Norwegian doctor. I've been working as a general practitioner and emergency physician for 26 years, all over Norway, always freelancing, always working, intensely for maybe 2 weeks and then going traveling and living, adventurous life. That was the intention of me becoming a doctor, to live in that way. But 10 years ago, my father died. He was 73. And I understood that I needed to take more care of my health because I wanted to live longer than that. So I want to live as long as I can, stay healthy, be productive, perform. And somewhere along there, that story, I got the opportunity to write a book on how to use wearables, how to use smartwatches and smart rings and all the new technology that can help us stay healthy, because our heart rate can reveal our stress levels, the intensity of our lives. And as a doctor, I can see that the modern day diseases, they have the root cause is too much stress, too much inflammation in our bodies. And this will also make your life quality lower, and also the prospects of living a long life lower. So what is good for our health is good for our heart. So now we have these wearables that can show us what to do and if we are managing it.
Well, I think it's a really interesting topic. I mean, and I think, or at least I haven't heard it broken down from the perspective of heart rate variability, but I have heard, so I recently lost a father to Parkinson's. And in my research, after he was initially diagnosed, I started spending a lot of time learning about the disease and how it progressed and all those sorts of things. And one of the sort of, I think, more modern or more recent studies that I came across seems to think that there's maybe an indication that it has something to do with cardiovascular health, that there's actually a component of it that might have something to do with, I don't know if it's variability of heart rate necessarily, but, as a general indicator of health, your heart rate. In my father's case, he'd had a stent and some other things done over the years. And so it kind of makes me wonder, how much of just his general health and general demeanor may have contributed to this disease, where if he kind of got a hold of it earlier on, maybe it wouldn't have been as big an issue, or maybe it may not have materialized the way it did, I should say.
Yeah.
So I wonder if we could talk a little bit about it, just as, as heart rate variability as the measure for, maybe long-term disease, or as a precursor or a warning for future problems.
Yeah, and Parkinson is one of the many diseases that have a connection with heart rate variability. So if you Google Parkinson and heart rate variability, you will see that before they get Parkinson's diagnosed, they will have had a low heart rate variability. And the reason why a low heart rate variability is connected to 9 out of the 10 deadliest diseases in the US is because it's a sign that your immune system is suppressed. It's under pressure. It's too much strain in the life of that person with a low heart rate variability, and the immune system is not working properly. So it cannot deal with, you know, keeping us out from the diseases of cancer, Parkinson, dementia, heart disease, stroke, and all of these other killers. And heart rate variability, of course, for a lot of your listeners, we have to explain what that is. And it's not just the heartbeat in itself, the heart rhythm in itself, which may be like 60 or 70 or 80 beats a minute. The heart rate variability is the variation between heartbeats. So if we are in the stressed mode, then the heart will beat very, very steadily, like a metronome. But if we are in the relaxed state, the recovery state, where all the kind of immune system will work better and the recovery takes place, then there will be a variation between heartbeats. So that when we breathe in, the heart rate goes up a little bit to take advantage of the extra oxygen in the lungs. And when we breathe out and there is less oxygen in the lungs, the heart rate will slow down a little bit, but just a little bit, measured in milliseconds, but detectable by the watches and the rings and so on. So in this way, it can detect, whether we are too much stressed or if you are enough time in the recovery mode.
So the watches will be that accurate to the millisecond, where you could tell that your heartbeat was a tenth of a second faster, or however fast it was.
Yeah. So if it's a tenth of a second faster, that's very good. So that would be kind of a top athlete would have that kind of a difference. A tenth of a second difference.
What kind of variables are we talking about? Are we talking about microseconds or like
milliseconds?
Okay.
So for example, my heart rate variability should be around like 50 milliseconds. So that would be a 50 milliseconds difference between the heartbeats on average. And a top athlete, could have, 100 milliseconds or even 150 milliseconds. But it's important to say that there is a 50% genetic component to that. So you shouldn't compare your heart rate variability to other people's. So you should look at what your heart rate variability is and try to improve it by improving your sleep, cutting down on alcohol, exercising, finding the right diet, and so on. Many of the tricks in my book that is showing you how you can improve your heart rate variability.
Okay. So it's interesting too. So I guess I was thinking about heart rate. So I'm glad you took the time to explain it. I was thinking about heart rate variability as in, sorry, I'm fighting off a cold here. So mine's probably a mess right now. But I think when I think of heartbeat versus stress, or as a measure for stress, I guess in my mind, I was more of the school of thought that like you would use something like cortisol or some, a level like that to try and indicate your stress. And maybe it can be a marker, but it hadn't occurred to me that your heart rate variability could be an indicator of that as well, that it could actually be maybe an underlying way of looking at something that's a little bit maybe more representative of your overall health versus something like a cortisol spike or something that might happen, as a result of something. But
so that there will be a correlation between the cortisol spike and the heart rate variability. So when we release cortisol because of stress, the heart rate goes up. So that is what happens. So the heart rate variability is kind of a proxy for the level of cortisol in the system, for example. So it can tell you whether you are too stressed. And of course, with the artificial intelligence and the measurement of millions of people's different, data, they can give you an estimate of your stress level in the moment and 24/7. So it's a really important metric, and it's something that you can have, on your wrist available at all times. So you can see whether you are too stressed for your own good. So, and you could detect also if you're coming down with a COVID or an infection and so on. So that is why it's useful for people. Yeah.
Well, and it just seems like an interesting metric to look at versus the kinds of things that I guess doctors, at least in my experience with doctors, have traditionally looked at. So the father I described earlier was technically my stepdad. My biological father actually died when I was 18. He was 47 of a massive heart attack. Now, he had a lot of life factors that I don't have, like he drank like a fish and he smoked and he did all these things. But, so he kind of, I guess, probably made things worse than they had to be. But ever since then, I guess maybe just as a byproduct of having my father pass so young, I've always sort of assumed that was the path for me. Like, it's for sure my heart's going to explode at 47, which is now only 3 years away. So that's a terrible prospect now. But, but the idea is, or like the way that I've been tested in the past, or to kind of keep an eye on my heart, is I go do a stress test. I'll go have an EKG. I'll go do some of these kind of measurements. And so, I mean, is this heart rate variability? Is this a factor that doctors, I guess, traditionally use to look at like a marker of health? Or is that kind of a new innovation?
It's a kind of it's not a new innovation, but what is new is that it is available to people. So earlier you would have to have advanced technology, in the office costing, hundreds of thousands of dollars, to be able to do that. But now it's available for everybody. And what is interesting, because as a doctor, we are usually waiting until people get sick and then we do something. But that is too late. So when you can see something on your ECG, that is too late. You need to step in before that so you can avoid getting that heart disease. And this is where HRV, or heart rate variability, comes in, because that will tell something about the risk of getting that heart disease. So if you improve these lifestyle factors, then your heart rate variability will be better, and your chances of avoiding the same destiny, increases. And that is my motivation. As my father died at 73, I wanted to improve my chances of living a longer life. And I understood, because we didn't learn this in medical school. In medical school, we learned how to categorize diseases and find out what's the treatment. We didn't learn how to create health. It was not on the curriculum. So all of this I had to learn by myself. The importance of sleep, the importance of exercise, the importance of stress management and nutrition and all of this. And in the Pulse Care, I've tried to make it as actionable and easy understandable as possible for normal people, not being doctors. And also the fact that we can couple it to the smartwatches so that you can see what happens, So it is, for a lot of people, it's like a gamification, and it's like watching your body as a body budget. You have some stressors, and to balance those stressors, you have to do something good, to come out, on the plus side of things.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned the gamification of it, because in my family, I have an uncle and all his kids. They have a contest every day to see who gets the most steps on their Fitbit, and it went out to be like casual, just fun and games, to now it's really competitive for him. And my uncle will literally walk 2 miles just to beat his daughter in the competition every day. And it's kind of funny to me that before he didn't have the motivation, but now that it's kind of a game, it's fun for him, and it's a competition, which changes things.
Absolutely. And it becomes a competition, to sleep better, to get a better sleep score, because like 10 years ago, you would be, kind of awarded, having little sleep. If you can say to people, I just sleep 5 hours, I can sleep in the grave, So now it's easy to say that, oh yeah, I got 90 points, I got 80 points and so on, so that you are stretching yourself towards health, not away from health. So sleep is the most important thing.
So if you don't get sleep, what happens? What I actually right now am operating on like 2 hours of sleep. So I'm kind of curious of, it was a long night. I had an excuse.
So yeah, but if you get, say, for example, if you get less than 6 hours of sleep compared to more than 7, you double your risk of cancer, for example. So, and it increases the risk of getting dementia, and Parkinson is related to sleep deficiency. So you really need actually those 7 to 8 hours a night with restorative sleep. Not only sleep, because I used to drink a couple of, I've done all the mistakes in my book, and I used to drink a couple of glasses of wine every evening. It felt so good, I was falling asleep easier. But the problem is, during the night, the stress is really high. So I can see from my Garmin watch that my stress level during the night after 2 or 3 glasses of wine is just as high as if I'm standing having a lecture for 200 people. It's the same effect on my stress levels. So,
and that's
when I
from
wake
2
up,
glasses of wine.
I mean, I would say then three glasses of wine. That would be a really high stress level. So I used to think, when I woke up and felt a bit sluggish, that this was just a feeling. But when you see, you see the results on your monitor, then you understand the stress that this has caused during the night. And I don't think I've met anyone who's tracking their system that has not cut down on alcohol.
Yeah.
Because, for example, according to Whoop, which is an American bracelet that tracks heart rate variability, maybe one of the best ones, they track their users and they say that alcohol is the worst stressor of all. So, so then you just start, regulating, maybe skipping some of the glasses that is not kind of necessary, and you prioritize the ones, at the wedding, or, if you're out with the guys or whatever. So it's a way to minimize alcohol, because that is, some of the worst things you can do if you want to perform at your best.
Yeah. It's crazy how, you don't think about that. Like in my 20s, I do it every night, go and have a couple beers and have some fun. And now if I go have a couple beers, I have a hangover for 2 days. And so it's not as fun anymore. So it's not even tempting really for me, but so you mentioned that one watch is like, I can't remember,
Garmin.
Garmin's what you use, but the one in America that you like?
The Whoop. Garmin is also an American brand. So both Garmin and Whoop is kind of the leaders in the field. You also have the Finnish Oura ring, which is a ring that will track your system. But Garmin is by far the best option, by the way. The best, and also in many ways the cheapest option. You would get a really good watch for probably $250.
Is it better because it is more accurate, or is it better because of the software that comes with it for tracking?
It's both. It's better for the accuracy, but also better for the algorithms and the way that they present it to you.
Okay.
With a body battery system that you can see kind of in the morning, you will see if you have charged up to 80% or so, and you can see during the day that your kind of battery goes down, and try to avoid it getting lower than 20 is what I usually recommend. So it makes it actionable. It's like a dashboard in your car. So your heart rate variability and stress levels is like the speed, and the battery is like how much do you have left on the gas tank, so that it becomes like a dashboard for your own physiology, which is obviously more important than the dashboard in the car, even if that is quite important.
Yeah.
No. So I wonder if we couldn't play like a little bit of a game here, and this reveals me involves me releasing some personal data. Crap. But so just by happenstance, it's interesting that we're talking to you. So recently, well, I guess it's been about 5 months ago, we bought a thing called an 8 Sleep. And 8 Sleep is a device that goes on top of your bed, and it can either heat or cool your mattress. And before that, I had one called an Ooler, and it was the same general idea. But our Ooler took a crap after 6 or 7 years or something, so we replaced it with this 8 Sleep. One thing that it does is the 8 Sleep is full of sensors, and it does all kinds of different tracking, and it gives you a bunch of metrics. So just by random chance, I happen to be getting an HRV score every day now. And I had no idea what that was before we spoke. So I'm grateful that we spoke, and now I have some idea what it is. So in doing a little chat GPTing to make sure that it wasn't embarrassing to say this number out loud, I wanted to share with you this, and I kind of wanted to talk to you a little bit about the trend, and I wanted to see if you could sort of identify something, because I have an idea of what could be causing, which has basically been a little bit of a decline over the last little while. And now it's starting to go back up. But I wonder if this would sort of weigh into or be supported by maybe your hypothesis in the way that these work as an indicator of general health. So basically starting back in August, I was at a 54 millisecond weekly average. So that's what the weekly average was. At its lowest, and this is just last week, I was at 31 millisecond weekly average.
Yeah.
So quite a range.
I'm sure you feel that.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say, so here's what's happened, right? Or what I believe has happened. And you can tell me if this makes sense then in those kinds of numbers. Yeah. So over the course of that period, I began what has become kind of a nasty habit and I need to be better about, which is spending time on social media at night before bed. Around here in this country, a big part of that was flipping through it and getting all the latest on the election drama and all the things that were going on in this country. And so I found myself often, I'd get into bed at 10, which was the time I used to get into bed, but then I'd sit and flip, till midnight. And even as recently as last night, I was doing this, right? I haven't totally backed back out of this habit. Because prior to that, like, I don't really use social media, but for whatever reason, I got in this loop. There was a lot of crazy drama. It was a lot of fun. So, so I spent a lot of time swiping. So, but what I'm looking at in this chart is a decline, basically down to November or something, and then December, it's starting to go back up. And so I'm wondering is it in just your opinion, and obviously I'm not treating you like a doctor, I'm treating you like somebody that we're just talking here. There's no diagnosis happening. But does it make sense that, I can at least anecdotally say in that period of time, I was sleeping less than in the period prior. Of course, I didn't have the bed before then, so I can't give you more data, but I was definitely sleeping less. I was definitely probably, I guess, generally more stressed, just given the sort of political nature of the, all the turmoil and everybody hates each other and all the stuff that was going on in this country. And then, as the election came and went and the results ended, however they ended, I'm still in kind of bad habit mode, but I, definitely on the mend. Like now it seems to be trending back upwards. Does it make sense to you, just kind of based on what you know about heart rate variability, that it's a clear indicator that this is like a stress problem, a not sleeping problem, and like these kind of things? Like, would that be a reasonable hypothesis? Like if you were to look at this data from a physician standpoint, would you be like, oh, well, what did you do? This is an obvious life change versus, I don't know, let's say something like a grander diagnosis, like a health problem or something.
Yeah, absolutely. That could be the difference that makes this heart rate variability go down. And I'm sure that you can feel the difference between those two numbers from 54 to 31. That I guess that you feel it in your overall health level. I would guess.
And definitely today, I've been sick the last couple of days, so I'm probably not the best indicator, but I can definitely say I've been more tired. Like in the mornings, it's been harder to get up. Yeah. It sounds stupid because of course you went to bed at 12:30 instead of at 10. So you're tired. And so, but so I've been more tired.
But it's not only the reduced time in bed, but this heart rate variability show that the little time in bed that you had was less restorative. And it may have been different reasons. Of course, the one you mentioned by looking at social media and getting stressed and worked up by what you were seeing and reading. And also at this time of year, there's less sunshine. So that could also be a part of it. And it also would depend if you are eating something while you're awake. Depends if you are eating later. That could also be a huge factor. So what we are eating has a lot to say. Do you know if you have been eating differently or eating later meals or?
Probably, I will say maybe what is kind of ramped up in sort of a similar time period is probably eating out more frequently versus cooking at home. We've had a really busy schedule lately. Both our boys are doing all kinds of football training and stuff, and so we're staying American football training. And so we're doing a lot of, traveling and going to camps and doing this and that. And so we end up eating out a lot. So that's for sure.
Absolutely. So it could be the totality of it, all the different factors coming together, creating this quite huge downshift in heart rate variability from 54 to 30 something.
Well, and
that is good with the 8 sleep, and even with the 8 sleep, because that should be a quite good way to sleep better. So it depends on the temperature that you have probably in the 8 sleep. I'm not sure how you have set the temperature there.
And I can share some of that with you. I was just going to add, is there any correlation between beats per minute, which I think I was conflating with heart rate variability? Is there a relationship there? So just to give you the metric over the last 6 months there, my heart rate tends to be a little up right now, but the variability is from 55 beats per minute to 60. So, it's not a dramatic jump. So I'm not looking at that as having the same sort of decline or incline as the HRV score.
Yeah, and that is typical. So that I often say that looking at your heart rate variability is like looking at your heart rate with a magnifying glass. So it can tell you so much more. So where your heart rate would go maybe a little bit down, your heart rate variability can go a lot more, percentage-wise down than just the numbers on the heart rate. So absolutely, and I've know a lot of athletes that could have more or less the same nightly heart rate, but that could have a kind of 50% difference in heart rate variability. And this is what would make this overtraining visible much more than the heart rate in itself. So these are quite important numbers, and it's very nice that you get it from your bed, because then you get, and I think that is quite accurate. I think the 8-sleep bed is quite accurate. I would want to have it, but it's expensive, and particularly over here. So to get it here, so I'm a bit envious.
It was expensive, and just like every fine American, I'm making payments on it, just like everyone else. But I find that for me, like I tend to be a warm sleeper anyway, so it's been a system that works really well for me. In fact, I've noticed the last few nights I've actually been a little too cold, so I've been adjusting my temperature up a little bit. But,
because having it a bit colder is better.
You burn more calories.
So I think between 60 and 65 degrees should be okay.
Okay.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably pretty close to what I keep it. I might be as high as like 70, but I think it keeps it pretty cool for me. I prefer to be cooler on the bottom with heavy blankets on top. So that's how I do it. And but like last night or 2 nights ago, I was just freezing to death. So I bumped it all the way up to like 72, which is for me.
Yeah, so you could do experimenting, and you can see on your heart rate variability the result of what you're experimenting with. But it's in general, that is a good heart rate variability, so that you can have 54. That's good. Of course now you see the range that 31 for you is a low range. So
and I definitely will say,
that increases your chances of getting this cold infection or whatever you have right now. So that you have been going down with heart rate variability shows that your immune system is not as efficient. And it's much easier to get these infections, So,
well, and it's kind of, it's totally anecdotal, but like the way that this, 8-sleep system works, they give you like a sleep fitness score every night, right? And I can tell you, so like August, September, October, I was always within whatever their range is, right? So like averaging somewhere in the high 80s to 90s with a couple like 100% nights. And I will say that now I tend to average more like in the 70s to 80s. So like whatever's going on, that's influencing that. And like I say, largely, I think it's just I'm staying up too late and getting up too early is the biggest change. I mean, in addition to maybe just kind of a general stress of this time of year and everything else.
Yeah, and the good part is that we get these numbers so we can see the results, because we are not really equipped from nature's side to feel this. So we need these metrics to tell us how the state of our body is, because our senses have been directed outwards, throughout history. You have excellent eyesight, excellent hearing, excellent sense of touch, but the sense for our inner system would just have been in the way. Just like a submarine need to get their own noises down to be able to hear what's going on the outside. And it's exactly the same with our bodies. So we can't really feel this. So the heart rate is kind of a way to amplify the signal from our body so that we can see it and notice it. And it's kind of having seeing the budget. If you don't see what's on your account, you don't know how much you can spend. Whether you have to take it on down payment or if you have the money in the bank. So it's a way of getting your body budget that I'm talking about in the post-cure, getting in balance.
I guess in balance wise, most people sleep at night. What if you have a job where you work nights and sleep during the day? Does that affect your heart rate, or does it, you get in that rhythm and you just get the same amount of sleep? Does it matter if it's during the day or at night?
Yeah. So unfortunately, and I've been working a lot of nighttime as a doctor, that is really detrimental for the stress levels.
Okay.
So it's actually dangerous. It's actually recognized as carcinogenic, for example, in Denmark. to work night shifts.
Wow.
And that includes even, working very late or very early. Our cells are constructed to sleep at night. So whatever we do that is against our biology, we lose something.
Because
So
I've
working
always
at night is not. Yeah.
I've been a DJ for 30 years, and I usually get off work at 2 in the morning, and then I get home at 3, and it takes about an hour or two for me to unwind. And I do that 2 or 3 nights a week. And so I found that for me, sometimes it's easier for me to just stay up and then stay on that cycle. And I'm kind of at a point now where I do that less and less, but for a long portion of my life, that's what I did. I was a night person, and I slept during the day. I'd usually go to bed around 4:30 in the morning, get up around 1 in the afternoon, and do it all over again. And
4:30 to 1.
Roughly.
Okay. So the amount of hours is okay then, as much as I can count in in my head. So and I think that once you have this sleep consistency, that you do it every day at the same level, that would probably make it easier for you than shifting back and forward. Which would be like having
that was the problem I was having. I was working a 40-hour day job and then DJing on the weekend. So I would, go from 9 to 5 during the week. And then on Friday, I'd do 9 to 5. And then I'd go and come home and have dinner. And then I'd go back to work at 9 and work until 2 in the morning. Do that Friday and Saturday night. And then have a day off and go back and do it all over again. And that didn't last very long. I couldn't do that for very long.
That sounds very hard. Yeah. That sounds very hard. And
it definitely wasn't fun, but
and then it would be important, and that is how, when these gadgets would be really important, because then you would continue to work in that way. You can choose that, but then you would need to mitigate other kinds of stress. You would need to not drink alcohol. You would need to take care of what you're eating, so that you're not eating something that further, makes it worse. So
I am the guinea pig. I'm the guy that's probably going to die early because of my life choices, just because of my job and drinking habits and all that stuff. Is it reversible if you catch it?
Absolutely. So this is reversible, and that is a good thing about it. So because we are renewing our body all the time, there are new cells coming, building. So by following the advice, for example, in the Pulse Cure, which is the best advice on sleep, movement, nutrition, rest, and all of this, you would be able to change that, just like I did. I weighed 40 pounds more than I do today. I did not exercise at all. Did not care about what I was eating, how I was sleeping. I've done all the mistakes in my book, really. I'm not kidding. And you can change that, because the body is renewing itself all of the time. It's changing the cells. It's taking the bad parts of cells that are not working properly, and reusing the material into new cells. So as long as you can change that lifestyle into something more sustainable, you could totally, I'm not sure, I couldn't tell, how much you would be able to make up for that. Or not even in my case, drinking alcohol every day. I was smoking. I was, doing everything wrong. And hopefully, I've been able to change that. So, but I'm very sure that by changing that lifestyle into something more sustainable, you will also get the results. You have much more. And that is a message in the Pulse Cure, that you can take charge of your health. And these smartwatches can help you to find out, just like Ryan here, that you can see some numbers that you think that, wow, and then you start to tweak it. You start to eat a little bit different and see, okay, what happens then? You start skipping the alcohol and maybe a week, and then, okay, what happens then? And that is when it becomes this gamification, where it's your own life that is at stake. Your own life and health. It's just not just an avatar in a video game. It's yourself.
Yeah, recently changed my diet, and I also changed. I found out I had sleep apnea, and I was a little overweight, and some of the side effects of sleep apnea is that you just don't breathe for a minute or so, and when I figured out that I had a deal of research on it, supposedly it's a major cause in Alzheimer's and major health problems down the road. And so I went and got a CPAP, and then I changed my diet, and I've lost probably 35, 40 pounds in the last 5-6 months.
That's great. Yeah.
And I've noticed a difference. It's like a major difference. And so just when I got the CPAP, that right there changed everything. I could actually sleep through a night consistently, whereas before I never hit REM sleep, and so that was a major change in my life.
And I know that the 8 sleep will actually, when it detects snoring, it will raise the head side of the bed, as I understand it, Ryan.
Oh, really? Yeah. Unfortunately, the bed frame that we have wasn't compatible with that part, so we didn't get that part. We've just got the cover. But that's exactly what it does. And the one that we have does do the monitoring, so it at least says, "Hey, man, you sucked last night. You snored a lot." And I do tend to snore. I don't know. I'm sort of perpetually stuffy. So so I do tend to snore, but it does, you snored less tonight than last night.
You could try to tape your mouth. Have you heard about that?
I've started to hear about it. It actually terrifies me because these are the nightmares I had as a guy that doesn't breathe all that well. I just go, oh God, somebody tries to rob my house and covers my mouth. I'm just going to stroke out. I'm just going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, but you could try, and you could try, if you just take a nap and just see, because usually the nose will function better. You will get better sleep. So
because I've considered some of the mouth guards and things like that. I've seen some different things for doing, trying to clean that up.
But just normal tape that you can buy at the pharmacies is enough. You just put one, not across your mouth, but top down. Just like vertical. So you will have space on both sides. So it's not like you're
totally obstructed.
I've never.
That makes sense. Yeah,
never heard of that trick.
I know that there's products being marketed for that specifically. I think there's even one just called mouth tape or something. It's kind of a joke of that you're covering people up, but I think that was the purpose of this too. And I have always wondered about that kind of thing, if it would be of use to me. And obviously I'll wait until I'm not with cold or something, but it might be worth giving it a shot.
I use it if I get a cold. I'm using it particularly. So I'm also using it a lot of the time. But if I get a cold, I'm sure to tape it, because if I don't, my mouth will be dry and I will wake up in the middle of the night and totally dry, and it's terrible.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, that's
what's the science behind that? Like, is it just your body adapting to stay alive, or why would it actually make a part of your body work better if you're obstructing like your main passage?
Well, the main passage is the nose.
Yeah.
So our noses are made to humidify the air, to change the temperature. So even in the cold of winter, just from the time from the air is by your nose until your lungs, it has to reach the temperature, and it will be full of nitric oxide. See, it will take nitric oxide from your sinuses and take it down into your system and improve your circulation. So our noses are constructed, through millions of years to optimize the air that comes into your lungs, and the mouth is for eating, So that is why it works so well to tape your mouth, to make sure that you're using your nose for breathing. So there's a great book by a guy named James Nestor. It's called Breath, that will explain that. Or if you listen to podcasts where James Nestor, he will explain the science of it. So
yeah,
absolutely. And the First Nation, the indigenous people in the U.S., they used to be very aware of that their children needed to breathe with their noses to get a good capacity.
Well, and I've always heard that, like for runners and things like that you should breathe through the nose, not through the mouth, and things like that when you're working out. And, and I guess I just never really did, because I always kind of feel stuffy, so I never really did anything. But I've had my nose checked out a bunch of times, and I even did a little procedure one time, but just like I've had no real positive result. But what I wonder, or what I believe could be the issue, is maybe like a grander scale inflammation. And I mean, this is just my hypothesis. I don't really know, and I haven't had a doctor say anything, but it's kind of the only thing that makes sense. If the passageways are clear, but it's still a struggle to breathe, then it makes sense to me that maybe it could be an inflammation thing. And so, but you mentioned that there's a relationship between inflammation and heart rate variability too. So what does that mechanism look like?
Yeah, so the more inflammation in your body, the lower your heart rate variability. So now that you have a lower heart rate variability, that is also a sign that your body is more inflamed. And is also then the immune system working not so well, which increases the chance of you contracting this normal chest infection or virus infection that you may have.
Okay. No, that makes sense. And is that, I mean, I guess like medically, how is that working? Is it, what's causing the inflammation, I guess? I mean, like the heart rate variability is a thing, but I mean, like, I don't know, commonly you think of things like, I don't know, too much sodium or, you know, whatever, like these are the things that cause your bodies to inflame. But like, I don't know, are we looking at inflammation wrong?
It could be so many things causing the inflammation. So it could be a lack of sleep. It could be that you're eating something that you don't tolerate that well. That could be gluten food stuff that has gluten in it or milk in it. You know, it could be that you're eating something with chili in it, you know, that is very spicy. It could be different things. It could be that you're overtrained, you know, for example, that you're training too hard. Alcohol, it could be so many different things. So that is why it's kind of a detective work to see the numbers, you know, on your smartwatch or from your bed there, and to find out, okay, what caused this? And then you take away one factor and see, okay, was it this that led to this? So, for example, eating a late meal would affect your inflammation level. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, all right. So now that we're talking a little bit about this, I mean, obviously people have, I mean, more than ever, maybe are wearing these wearables and they're starting maybe to get a better picture of their HRV, but I assume people like me probably didn't know the difference between heart rate variability and our beating heart. Yeah. So I appreciate you taking some time on that. I wonder if we could talk about, though, just sort of like, I guess, identifying when we need to take action. And, you know, maybe an easy example is maybe mine, where my heart rate variability went down and now I'm sick. And so byproduct, I should have been better. But like, if you're the average citizen, you seem to be doing pretty good. You're working, you're, you know, everything seems fine. And you see a blip on your heart rate variability, you know, meter. Like, when is time to act? And I guess, how do we know what to even do? You know, how do we know when it's an indicator of infection versus just I didn't sleep good last night?
Yeah. So just one would not matter much. So it's when it's consistently going down over time, such as you have experienced here. That is when you should, you know, that these signals are kind of flashing and telling you that, okay, your heart rate variability is lower, your body is under stress, you need to change something. It will depend from the person, but you would see it on the Garmin curves from the heart rate variability over time, that this is going down into the red zone, and it will tell you with words, you know, that, okay, there's something going on here. You should allow yourself to rest more and sleep, or it will give you advice on what to do, so that you're not helpless. You have this aid from the Garmin watch that will tell you what to do, and also from Whoop band if you choose to use a Whoop band or.
Well, and so would the, I guess, sort of proper way to start looking at, you know, I mean, if we're self-diagnosing here and we're looking at this and we're going, you know, it's starting to slip. I mean, is the right way to sort of investigate our health, sort of like basically the exercise that we just ran through, which is, okay, well, what changed in these last few months? Oh, okay, we're sleeping less, we're eating later, we're doing these. Like, I mean, is that the kind of analysis that we should be performing, or should we be running to a doctor and saying, hey, man, I think I'm dying?
Yeah, you should try that first to see if there's any obvious reason, you know, that you can think of, just like you did. You know, you could find a reason, and then you should try to, you know, correct things and see if it goes up again. And if it goes up again, then it's fine. But if you do all those different things, for example, in the pulse cure in the book, and still the level is low, then you should go to the doctor. And that is what I'm writing in the book as well. And then you may find things like vitamin B12 deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, iron deficiency, particularly for women. You may even find cancer. So there are several examples of people seeing that curve going down, trying to mitigate it, going to the doctor and finding out it was cancer. Because the heart rate will respond to any demand on the body. So whether it's you working hard, staying up at night, or the cancer starting to require more work, from the body, it will be seen in the heart rate variability. So then it's absolutely, if it goes down over time, you should go to the doctor. The doctor may not understand this. I had never heard of heart rate variability until 5 years ago. So chances are that the doctor may not understand this if they're not updated. Yeah.
Is that the main indicator to?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, is that the main indicator to watch, or is there another like bullet points you should pay attention to, like blood pressure and other indicators that are more net important per se, or is the heart rate variability?
I think the heart rate variability I think is most important and more actionable. But you should of course also have a blood pressure monitor. You should have that at home, and to make sure that your blood pressure is less than 130 over 80, for example. I'm not sure which numbers you have in the States, but I think it's the same. So to follow that at home is important, because having a high blood pressure is a risk factor for disease in itself. But it's not so easy to, the good thing about these trackers is that you have it on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it can help you and analyze it, while the blood pressure monitor you would have to use yourself, and note down what it was and so on. But I understand that there's so much things happening in this field now. So this whole field with wearables is just exploding. So I think that it will soon be able to detect the blood pressure also in the watches.
It's amazing the tech that's come out just in the last 4 or 5 years, as far as like the glucose monitors on your arm, where you just hold your phone up and it scans it, and stuff like that, is the insulin pumps that are just built in, or your pacemaker that you can connect to your phone. And it's like we're almost androids now.
And I use the CGM, the continuous glucose monitor, a lot, and that's also very important, because the fluctuations in blood sugar and the insulin is also very bad for your system. So for me, it was really interesting to have that monitor on and to see the blood sugar variations, and to try to have a stable low blood sugar, or low enough, of course, not too low. But,
sure.
So that's also important. But it's because we have this artificial intelligence and technology in everything else that we do. So finally, it's coming to our own bodies, our own physiology, and of everything that the body can tell us, the heart rate is the most important. So just by following your heart rate and observing it and learning about your body and what it reacts to, you will come a long way.
So I wanted to ask, and you kind of started to touch on it there a second ago, and having, that maybe your doctor won't know what to do with this, even if you do show up there. I mean, it's pretty well known. Like, I mean, we have kind of a bizarre health system over here in the States. I'm not sure what it's like in Norway, but, we have kind of this system where basically you get to see your doctor for 5 or so minutes a year. I think 7 minutes is the average. So most of us don't have much of a relationship with our primary care doctors unless there's actually something wrong with you, which is kind of the point you were making at the top of the show. And so because of that, I mean, first of all, my doctor doesn't know anything about me. Second of all, my doctor may or may not have the expertise to deal with this sort of thing. In fact, I work with an outside clinic to do like quarterly blood work and, take supplementation and things like that to try and regulate levels and things like that. So I'm doing a lot of work outside of primary care to maintain myself. And this seems like one of those kinds of things that maybe we need to be taking onto our own instead of going to the doctor for support. But what's the balancing act there? Because one thing you just brought up that made me think of it, and you can kind of tie the two things together, is you mentioned the continuous blood glucose monitor. So to do that here in the States, they're really expensive.
It's not cheap.
And Yeah, because like I looked at one just for myself. I have sort of borderline or what they would call like pre-diabetes. And so, and I've gotten some control of that number, and it's getting better all the time. But for me, continuous or glucose monitor seemed like a good idea. So I started investigating. But it was like $800, $1,000 for the device, and then like big monthly fees for everything. And
that was expensive.
Yeah, it's just, and then like, the way you would do it here in the States is you would try and get your insurance to pay for it. And the insurance won't do it unless you're already diabetic or have some sort of pre-existing.
Well, what's even worse is when you are diabetic and you do have the prescription for it, and then you retire and lose your insurance, you can't afford it anymore, which is what happened to my dad. He has a continuous thing, and Medicare won't cover it, and so, or at least the plan that he's on. I don't know if there's another option, but it when he retired, he literally lost access to a lot of the meds he was taking, access to that. Our whole system is nasty.
Well, so there's a lot of issues like that where
that is why this is so important, because all the advice in the Pulse Cure is free. Moving, sleeping, resting, fasting, avoiding alcohol as much as you can, though, and all of these things are free or even cheaper, and you can use breath work to calm yourself down. You can use cold exposure to stress down, and everything is free. So it's only after you get sick that your health depends on your wallet, just like your dad. It's also the problem because
I was going to say it's better to change the oil on your car regularly than to let it go so far to where your engine fails. It's pretty much the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and unfortunately, there's too much money to be made on sick people, and this is why the whole healthcare system, both in the U.S., which is worse, of course, than Norway, but also here, the strategy is waiting until you get sick and then do something, rather than do preventative steps to avoid getting sick. Because I know that the insurance company will not make you go to the doctor unless you're sick. They will not pay for that. So the whole system is like that. So
it actually discourages a lot of people from seeking care when they need it, right? Because you're going to have to go pay $150 or whatever to see the doctor.
That's exactly what happened to me last time. And then
whatever the doctor gives you, then you've got to bill it to your insurance, and what do they pay, what don't they pay? Yeah. So it actually encourages a lot of people who could use help from going and seeing a doctor.
Ryan and I have both been self-employed for a long time. And in the States, all your insurance comes from, if your employer provides it for you, or if you want to pay out of pocket a lot of money, then you can get it. So for a short period of time, I worked for a radio station, and I had benefits. So I decided I'm going to go do the full workup. I'm going to go do blood work. I'm going to go visit a doctor. I'm going to do all the health stuff that I've been neglecting for years. When I go and get checked out, the only thing he tells me, you got a little bit of high cholesterol. And that's right when I kind of figured out that I had sleep apnea and that I was a little overweight and all that stuff. So I kind of knew that. And then I get a massive bill in the mail, and they didn't do anything. They didn't do a damn thing. They took my weight, they checked my blood, and that was it, and said, hey, you might have high cholesterol. And now I have a $500 bill and nothing to show for it. And so it was like, it's every time I've been to the doctor, I've had horrible experiences. So if I can avoid it by being healthy, I'm going to be healthy or try to be.
Yeah, it's a lot better. And it's what I'm writing. The first thing that I'm writing in the Pulse Cure is a quote from Albert Schweitzer, who was a doctor in the 1800s. And he said that the doctor of the future will be yourself.
Yeah.
And this is a way that when we can use this technology, we can do that. We get access to the most important figures, or biometrics. So this is a huge shift, in taking the power from the doctors and the healthcare system and putting it into your own hands, literally, and making it able to navigate,
So remember when WebMD first came out and everyone got a sliver and thought they were going to die because they Googled it? And, you got cancer or whatever. It's like they put it in WebMD and they think the world's going to end because they get this. It could be this. It could be this. It could be this. If you're your own doctor and you're taking these figures in, is there like a spreadsheet? Is there a website we can put them into to get, like more granular info, or do you just have to kind of know that if you're in the 50s with your heart, I can't, what's the
rate variability?
Rate variability. If you're in that range, you're good. But if you don't really know what range is good, like what a resting heart rate is, or what your blood sugar should be, or are there places you can put it in and it'll give you like an alert or something?
I think that at least the Garmin watch would tell you that, give you an estimate of how you're doing, if this is stress or not. You will see it, and in the figures, in the graphs that you see every day. So and that is why they make it easy for you. And this is a good thing, that there's money on the front side of disease. That it's possible to make money helping people to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So they, of course, through their artificial intelligence and their apps on the phone, they're using the biometrics to give you the information that you need to be able to adjust and change the lifestyle.
Yeah, and it is interesting. You're seeing a shift, and you just made a really good point, which is the idea that the money has sort of switched locations, right? In the traditional model, at least here in the States, the money's on the back end. You get paid a ton when you're the surgeon doing the surgery, or you're doing all the medical care once you find out you're already diabetic. I mean, like I don't even know, as a guy that didn't go to the doctor a lot when I was younger, like, I mean, I don't even know how many years I had high blood pressure or whatever before a doctor finally told me. I mean, who knows? And, and so it took a long time. And even with like this A1C thing, it really only came about because I saw one of these third-party doctors, these outsourced people, and, sort of were able to give me sort of a more comprehensive picture of my problems. And my normal doctor, I guess as a result of insurance, wasn't ever running a full battery of tests. He was running a very limited run, 5 or 6 tests. That was kind of it. The are we going to keep you alive tests instead of, everything more comprehensive or diagnosis, and or that he could diagnose from. And so, I mean, but with the wearables, I mean, the money is in selling you an Apple Watch. The money is in selling you the, the Whoop strap or whatever. And so, so the incentives are a little bit different. Now it's, I mean, the byproduct is preventative care because you have access to this data, but for the financial incentive, it's actually on that front end. And so, I mean, you can almost see how a shift like that in medical care generally would, I mean, they're not going to not make their money. They would just get their money in a different way. And I think it, could be like maybe a good point of learning for insurance companies and people like that. And we've done, over the years, my marketing agency did a lot of work for a big insurance company in the States. And those guys, just in the last few years, have like started offering discounts if you wear your Apple Watch every day. They've started doing some things like that. They do a little bit more preventative work. They pay more for blood tests, these kinds of things that are preventative and forward looking instead of, what happened 6 months ago that now we're dealing with. And so I hope that those are indicators that things are starting to shift and that we're starting to see maybe improvement overall. But, I know that at least in this country, we still got a long way to go.
Yeah, we do. So the Oura Ring compared to a watch, is it less accurate, or is, because I can't stand wearing a watch. So if I got that ring, same thing, or is it?
Yeah, it will give you a lot of the information from the ring, and it's accurate, but it's not giving you the details, all day long. So that you would get maybe probably the same numbers that you would get from the 8-sleep bed. So in the morning you will see the quality of your sleep, and Aura is the best ones on the sleep quality. That's for sure. And you will get the heart rate variability. So it's like going to the supermarket and getting the total on your bill. While with the Garmin watch, that you have all day long, it's like you can see the different items that you have been shopping. And if you have the Oura Ring, it's quite hard to understand that, okay, the stressful part was actually what I was eating for lunch. And it was from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., for example, which you would not be able to detect from the Oura Ring. They have some kind of a stress system, but it's not good enough. So probably the best thing to do would be to use the Garmin watch for maybe for like 2 months, just to find out some things that could be useful, and then maybe to use a Aura Ring. And the Aura Ring is certainly a lot better than guesswork.
Yeah.
So I think I use both. So I have the Aura Ring and the Garmin watch. So the Aura Ring is best at night, and the Garmin is the best one for the overall and for the daytime.
Yeah, that kind of made me think of just one quick question, and I know we're getting to the end here, so I'll make this quick. But so is there a big difference in heart rate variability, during the day when you're active and you're doing things versus at night? And just for the example that you just gave with the Aura Ring and also with the 8 Sleep, like my metrics are coming in as I'm resting, right? So I'm in sleep mode, and that's when I'm getting this data. I'm not really seeing. I do have a smartwatch, but I don't even know if I have it connected. But is my rate during the day, would that skew my average one way or another? Where maybe my 8 Sleep data is okay, but it's not complete picture.
Yeah, so it's not complete. It's telling you, just like now, you're seeing the numbers from your bed, but you're blind to what happened during the day. So what happened during the day is what will affect what you see during the night. So this is why it would be a lot better and easier to find out the reason for these different variations when you see the day number from the stress levels. So
okay.
So it's
for somebody like me, like I made the switch some time ago to start wearing like analog watches instead of smartwatches because I was so tired of the notifications. But I've been very interested in that Whoop strap because I know it's it's not necessarily a watch, but you wear it like a strap, but it's but it's a way that I could keep wearing my watch but still collect that data. So so that might be a good solution for me.
Yeah, and you can also use the cheapest Garmin, the Vivo Smart 5, which I think is around $150, which would seem like an activity bracelet. It's not like you're walking around with 2 watches. It looks more like a step counter. So and you don't have to have the numbers on, so it will look pretty much like the Whoop band. So that could also be an opportunity.
Yeah, because I've seen those Garmin watches, and they're really nice watch. Like, if I wanted to wear digital watches, and I suppose you don't have to get all your email and everything on that watch, but that was why I bailed on my Apple Watch, as I was getting too much stuff. So anyway, cool. All right, well, thank you so much, Torkil. I appreciate your time, or Dr. Færø, I should probably say, to be more polite. But we're kind of getting to the end of the show. Do you want to take a quick minute and just let people know where they can learn more about you, catch up with you online, maybe buy your book?
Yeah, my book, The Pulse Cure, they can buy. It's a normal paperback book. They can buy on Amazon or other internet access outlets. And it's also an Audible, so they can listen to it. And if they like to listen to their books instead of reading it, many that listens to podcasts like to listen to their books. And they can find me on Instagram. I'm Dr. Torkil, Dr. Torkil. I'm on LinkedIn and so on. So it's possible to find me. I also have a website called thepulsecure.com where they can also see a video lecture where I'm showing how to use the Garmin watches and to track their health. So it's like a 1-hour free video that they can see.
Love it. Well, thank you so much again. It's been an enlightenful conversation. I'm going to go take a nap now. So.
All right. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much, good. Dr. Færø. I appreciate your time.
And tape your mouth as well.
Will do.
I've got a list here I've got a list of things to buy on Amazon as soon as we get off the phone. So cool. Thank you so much, Dr. Færø. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thanks so much to everybody who tunes into the show this week and every week. And we'll see you guys next time.